Montaigue Boxing Association. Lesson 5. We're going into, this is Dim Mac for Western View if you haven't been watching the series. If you haven't been watching the series, please take a look at, this is lesson 5, the progressional series of lessons, so please have a look at the first lessons. They explain what we're doing, and yeah, some of this stuff may not make sense because you haven't looked at the first lessons, so watch the first lessons. Okay, we're looking today at CV14. Conceptive vessel 14, right in the center line of the body. This is the conceptive vessel channel, which runs from up under there right up to about here. So we're looking at, basically, feel the chest, hard, soft. Just where it goes soft is where we're striking to. Okay, so you've got a hard bony bit there, and just there, right where it goes soft is where we want to hit, and we want to hit in and up. Not as in like an uppercut, but as in, if you look at the punch there, just side there. Okay, if I'm aiming there, that's straight in, you see? Now, you see? It's just a kick up. It's not like you have to think, boom, like up under here kind of thing. It's just a slight upward angle on the end of the punch, depending on, obviously using several different techniques. A lot of the strikes we use in this case, as you've seen in the introduction of this video, I had Leigh doing the attacks, or rather the defences, depending on how you want to look at it. Body shots obviously work slightly better if you're a smaller height. Typically speaking, when I'm training with Leigh and we're doing whatever kind of stuff, it's rare that I attack Leigh's body. I still do it sometimes if I feel an opening, but most of the time I tend to work up here, Leigh tends to work down here, because I'm all up here on top of him. You see that they're open to him. So of course you're going to use body shots more, especially against a taller person. Some techniques that you'll learn sometimes, I'll teach a technique in a class, and people, someone like me might be trying to learn a technique like this, and it feels a bit, this is difficult. But then you go, you come over, tall person. Now if Leigh does that same technique to me, it's lovely, it fits, you see, because I'm that little bit taller. He doesn't have to drop down to make the technique work. He just punches, and that's where the rib is, right there. Anyway, CV14 in acupuncture is, as I said, right there in the center of the body. It's one of the main areas that we use. It's in Chinese medicine, it's called a heart mu point, which simply means it's not directly over the heart, it's not on the heart channel as such, but it's the most physically directly related to the point. You could have a kidney shu point, which is not necessarily a kidney point, but it's directly over the top of the kidneys. That's what we mean by that. Shu on the back, mu, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but I believe it's mu on the front of the body. So this is our heart mu point. So we stop the heart, we put the heart into cardiac arrest when we strike these points. Okay, for starters we'll get Leigh to have a talk about, from the Western medical science point of view, as to why this point does what it does in Western medical science.
Seems like a very mystical idea that you hit somebody here, or somebody gets hit here, and their heart stops, or they die basically. But what we're looking at is, as Eli said, is just below the nipple line, just where the sternal cleft or the xiphoid process is here, and just underneath it there is where we're looking to strike. This is convective vessel 14. It's a phenomena in humans, which I was taught about when I did my emergency training. It's commotio cordis, is what the effect is called, and it's most common in young men who tend to play a lot of sports, with ball sports. So it's not very common, but it does happen where they'll get hit with a baseball or a tennis ball or something here, and it causes the heart to go into cardiac arrest. Well, what it does actually causes the heart to go into something called ventricular fibrillation. So what happens is, the old belief was that you used to hit the heart in between beats. That's not quite true. It's as the atria contract, as they go to expand and the ventricles go to contract, you get struck straight in there. So as the electrical impulse goes from the top of the heart to the bottom of the heart, as the impulse tries to jump, that's when the strike happens. Obviously I'm not going to get into a confrontation and go, right, when's his heart beating? Boom! But we know that if we put a massive or a shock impact in here, as we were doing in the last one, not a big pushing impact, but a more sizable shock impact where you use the centrifugal and centripetal force to put your shock into the body. That shock wave goes into the heart, and it's actually happening in the opposite direction. The signals come down into the heart, into the bundle of hiss, and then they spread out through the heart. So we're putting a shock wave in the opposite direction to the impulses that run into the heart that tell the heart to beat. And as I said earlier, we put the heart into something called ventricular fibrillation, and usually they arrest immediately. If there's somebody on scene, the success rate of bringing people back with CPR is 65%. If somebody's got a defibrillator on scene, then they'll come back up to 78% of the time. Personally, I've nursed a 16-year-old boy who ran onto the end of the scaffolding pole whilst playing in a building site, and he went into cardiac arrest on scene. We got there within 5 minutes. We were unsuccessful in bringing his heart back because of the gap where he'd lost his intrathoracic pressure. So basically, it's commotio cordis is the effect that's caused by a direct strike straight in underneath the xiphoid process there, and the shock wave goes into the heart and causes the heart to go into a misrhythm or a fibrillation in this cause, or ventricular fibrillation. This causes cardiac arrest.
Sounds good to me. Good. Okay, so that's why it does what it does. Now we're going to show you how to hit it. Now, in a lot of situations, as I said, from a taller boxer's point of view, it's sometimes difficult to get down there, because if he just keeps his elbows closed, I'm probably just going to punch straight onto his elbow, so it's difficult. This is why Leigh hits me there all the time. And if I'm training with taller people, then I will put strikes in there myself. So most of the strikes we want to do at this point, as Leigh's just said, we want to strike in and up, slightly. Not an uppercut, but just boom, slightly in and up. So the 3 strikes we're working with this time is just simple, straight out punch, straight into the point, which again, doesn't work for me because look at my arm, it's aiming down, you see, so I can't get that. For me to get an upward angle with that punch, it's a bit tricky, it's more difficult than something else. So yeah, whereas if Leigh, right where he's, that's beautiful, see, because that's the correct angle, is what you want. This is why you wouldn't hit to that point from a taller point of view. Oh, by the way, of course, as I've said before, you hit CB14 in any direction, it's still going to affect the point greatly. When we talk about the direction, that's just the most effective way to hit it. I can hit Leigh this way and still cause a huge, that's going to attack the diaphragm more. Yeah. Anything specific to say about that?
No, the diaphragm, you attack the diaphragm. Yeah. The diaphragm will give to a degree, then it will contract to try and defend itself. When it does that, it expels all the air from the lungs. Yeah. So then you end up winded. So you get that, I can't breathe in effect.
Yeah, and you get folded, you
can't breathe back in because the diaphragm is contracted to try and defend itself.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, yeah, when you hit more downward, you're going to have more of that effect. So it's the same location, but you're going to have more of a diaphragmatic effect rather than the heart stopping. So I guess you could say from a dim mak point of view, with reference to a death point strike, this is more likely to cause death than a downward strike. But anything's going to have an effect. But as I say, better from my point of view as a taller defender to boom, to hit down on the point, and he's still going to be dropped and can't breathe anyway, even if it's not as effective. Yeah. It's more effective because for me to do this is more difficult. So the most effective way to strike a point is not necessarily the most damaging way, but it's the most effective way for your body shape and also for where you've ended up in the position. Even if Leigh had his hand up here for whatever reason, and he struck down, he's not going to go down first and then strike up. He's of course going to come straight down onto the point. Little trick for you, lovely little move. If you get someone who's a bit overweight, like a beer gut kind of overweight I'm talking about, not someone who's like apple shaped, but someone who just has a big beer gut. So you're tough sort of, brawler type of a bloke. Push your belly out for me. Take a big breath. That's it. So see, Leigh doesn't have much of a belly, but you can see where the belly comes out, right there. That's right where you want to hit. So when you get, I think I can see my belly out more than that. Yeah. There. Right there. See where the belly pushes out? Right there. Even now, I don't even like your hand being there. It's not nice. Yeah. But right where your belly pushes out, if you basically just go, boom, and it's so easy to hit, that's the beauty of it. But this, you've got to get at quite an angle. You might skim, you might miss it, you see. If you're going straight in, it's pretty easy to hit. But with a downward angle, you may glance off his abs. But when he's got that beer gut coming out, you're in any kind of just down with a heel palm, down with a punch, drop an elbow on it, anything like that. And just that kind of pressure, right on there, he's not going to be able to breathe.
You're going to hit me there.
So he's just going to literally buckle and fold.
Yeah. Especially as a drinker, because he'll have an enlarged liver, so it'll protrude a bit more into his belly.
Okay.
Medical knowledge and martial arts. Wonderful things.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so yeah, as I said, if I were punching CV14, I would punch down. If the opponent, I mean, was shorter than myself.
Yeah. And the classic say of a downward CV14 is they lose their seat of power. And you can see as he likes doing this downward strike, I'm losing my seat of power. I've got nothing to hold on to because he's winded me and hit me down. So I've lost my seat of power.
Yeah. Okay, so the strikes we're going to work with today, the primary strikes that we're working with are boom, straight in. So it's a thumb up position, as Leigh was demonstrating there. See, that fits beautifully. That's lovely, right in there.
Yeah.
The second one we did was chi.
Yeah, from the
Tai Chi form, which is like this, which again, I don't use it maybe to his neck or something, but the idea of chi, if you have a look there, look at the way the elbows squeeze. Actually, I'll get onto this one, I'll get onto chi. Let's get onto the first one. What are we doing? We haven't talked about the actual attacks yet. Okay, so the actual attacks that we're doing, basically, I'm throwing a hook punch at Leigh. This is the same block as we've done several times before, so I'm not going to talk about that too much. And he's throwing a snap punch straight in and up. Notice how the wrist kicks just on the end of the strike. That gives the upward force. The elbow is slightly dropped, so it's creating that upward angle coming through. He's primarily aiming with these three knuckles here, the bottom three knuckles, like that. I quite often hear people say, oh, what are you hitting with those three? Well, you should hit with the other two, they're stronger, or they're this or they're that. We hit with either, depending on the angle. Some strikes will hit with these three, some strikes will hit with these two, depending on the angle as to which fits better. They both work, they're not one better than the other. It's just that if I'm coming in here, they align better. If I'm coming around here, those two align better, so it depends on the attack. So that's what we're working with there, coming straight in and up. Same as before, as Leigh does the attack, bam! You see he's coming from a close range again, just whoop, straight from there. No wind up, no pull back with that technique. There's not really much to say about that because it's all the same body mechanics as what we've already done. You're just learning how to do it from a lower point of view. So the main training for this strike will be when we get the mitts out and to train the actual punch coming through. Hard as you can, swing it. Again. Come on. You see. Now that punch was about 3 times harder than the first punch, but it didn't cause any effect because I wasn't a sitting duck. That one hit it. Oh. Come on, harder. That's better.
That was a lot harder.
Yeah. Come on, hit a big swing.
Yeah. I don't want to hit you any harder than that.
No, that's alright. On again. That was better. The chi strike, now with this strike, watch what happens here. When I attack with this, what happens is the primary source, I'm not going to go into too much detail here, there's a very dynamic back rolling action here. This is getting into really the internal principles of Tai Chi Chuan and Bagua. So I'm just going to go into the basics of it, but effectively chi means to squeeze. So we're squeezing the elbows like that, you see? Now see what that does to the hands. If I exaggerate, it's creating a slight upward force. So I can use chi, boom, in a downward strike as well, but primarily into here we want that upward force. So I would say as a general rule, when you're using this strike, if you're striking, say, from your own sort of mid-chest height, see how that's just comfortable. Now there's a downward angle. If it's a straight angle from your body, your chi strike is naturally going to create a slight upward angle. If your chi strike is slightly lower, now there's a slight downward angle to the structure in my arms. Now the strike is naturally going to create a downward strike. So again, if I were hitting Leigh, boom, you'd get that lovely compressing strike downward into it. If Leigh were hitting me, he's coming up, he's lifting up through my center, you see. So, if you watch here, just the squeezing of the elbows, watch what it does. See? Now that's just squeezing the elbows. That's the thing you want to practice with this strike. Before trying to get lots of power into the movement, learn the technique, because this strike is different. If you've trained some other stuff before, you've done a bit of boxing or whatever, this is probably going to be quite different than what you're used to doing in your training. I mean, you may have done something similar, but yeah, it's quite unique to Tai Chi. So, the primary thing is you've got to get both hands squeezing equally to compress the force from both sides of your body into one point. So the right hand, the front hand, is squeezing from a yang state, which is like this, into a yin state, which is like this. The other hand, the rear hand, is going from a yin state into a yang state. So they're compressing and squeezing together. The correct angle of the hands, if you have a look here, is like that. My pisiform bone, which is that little knobbly area there. Sorry if this is really loud, I'm right next to the mic now. Those two bones stick together, you see, like that, and fold. So you'll notice on that strike, I'm not across the wrist line like this. That's how a lot of people do this strike. They put the wrist across like that, like the knife edge in the wrist. That's not going to give you any power, and you can damage your own wrist doing that. So see how it's just creeping onto the heel palm just a little bit. Height-wise, see how you can't see my heel palm? Now you can see my heel palm, so that's too low. We want it just there. But equally, we don't want it up here either. Now you can see my whole hand over the top, you see? This hand should be hidden behind this hand, like that. That's the correct angle. And see how it squeezes. It's not this. It's not a forward pumping action. It's a squeezing action of the body. So that's what we want to do when we're attacking with it. Don't think to yourself, you see, that's a forward action, like this. We want, see that? See how my arms didn't move forward when I did that strike? See, it's just a squeeze like that. Now you put your whole body behind that, and you die. So, I'll go into this in a bit more detail when I show it on the bag. But see how this is just the elbows, you see? You want to compress. The whole body is squeezing here. Just watch the spine. I'm not going to go too much into detail. You really have to practice Tai Chi Chuan to understand the principle of this movement. But I'll just show it lightly. Just see if you can see what's happening in the back. See, this is just the elbows. You see, that's just from the arms. It's the right principle, but it's only coming from the arms, the shoulders. So now I'm going to, see, starting straight and compressing down. See? I'm getting that squeezing element from the whole body. So this happening like that is squeezing the tube of toothpaste out and out through the strike. So I'll show that in a minute when we get onto the striking area. The blocking point of view with this one is called rollback or Leigh from the Tai Chi system. So we're attacking down Neguan, down the wrist here, down the inside of the wrist. Like that. It's not coming through it, it's coming down like this with the back of the wrist. The other hand is slamming straight through into either the pericardium points in the center of the forearm, center of the elbow, or into the lung points on the outside edge. So you're going to get one of those, but you're basically cutting through with this area here. Like that. But notice how, see, I'm not doing this. One hand naturally is pulling back. This is exaggerating a bit, and the other is sort of going through the arm. Now again, if I'm throwing that punch to Leigh, you see that? Now I've opened myself up to a strike, and then you can just drop straight back in with chi. Now with reference to a block like this, you're using a double-handed block, so you've got to be very quick, because you've got to be coming in before I throw this other one. So when you're practicing these type of strikes, like I said in the last lesson, boom, one very quick to the other. So when I throw this one, it's got to bring that straight in. Because any boxer is going to be going, "Ah!" See, I'm going to be throwing that second punch straight away. Now, in a lot of cases, it's usually not advised to use both your hands against one punch. The only time really I would advise it is A, if you're a really small framed person and there's a massive guy coming, you're probably going to want to use two hands. Otherwise you may just get knocked over, even if you put your solid guard up. So that's where we may want to use two hands, whether it's an upper or a lower. But in most cases, very rarely would me or Leigh against each other use both hands, because if he throws that hook punch, why not just use one and then deliver this straight to the front? There's no reason to use both. And even if you're a smaller person, there's two different ways of striking. Let's just take boxing for an example. Now, I'm not a boxer, so please don't criticise me for saying something about boxing that's not true. I'm just using my basic knowledge of what I've seen boxers doing. Okay, now, if I'm thinking, for example, let's say I'm throwing this low rib shot, right? Now, typically, actually, most people usually start with something at the top, but we're assuming if someone's starting from underneath, right? So, if I'm coming through here, there's going to be two different ways I can do that, and it's only on one of them that you should use a double-handed block. If I come through like this, see this left hand? It's already there. He can see I'm already thinking, this is just to get you to go down, this is already coming through. If my mind is already on the second punch, the first punch isn't going to have as much weight behind it. So even if you're a smaller person, chances are, of course you have to practice this for yourself so you know what you can deal with personally. But yeah, if I come through with I'm not throwing all my body weight into it, I'm coming through like this, yeah, so he's going to come through and just cover that, come straight through there. However, now, we're assuming Leigh's a small person and I'm a really big guy, because otherwise he would never use a double-handed block anyway. But now, if I come through like that, see the other hand's drawing back. So I'm not thinking like this, I'm thinking I'm just going to fucking this kind of thing. So we're talking from the point of view of someone who doesn't necessarily, that's not a good technique. To open yourself up like that, it does generate a huge amount of force, but it's not the best technique, because this hand's back here, you see. But just because it's not a good technique doesn't mean someone won't do it, because the person that's going to attack you in the street is more likely to just swing punches. He's probably not going to be a boxer. He's probably not a professional boxer who's attacking you in the street. We're not learning self-defense to practice fighting against other martial artists. We're training ourselves just to practice against street attacks. And a street attack might very well launch into a punch like that. You see people, look at the, bar fights, rugby fights, whatever. They don't go like this before, they just come screaming in with an attack. And if you're a small person, against a hook punch like that, you could use one arm against it. But against that massive swing attack, yeah, you might want to use a double-handed strike. But you can use a double-handed strike because my body mechanics are signifying that this is going to take time to bring in the second punch. But if my body mechanics are signifying both my hands are on go, they're rolling, then you don't want to use, of course, you're loving that foot strike.
I always attack that foot.
Yeah, so that's just a little talk about when to use two hands. But in this case, we're just giving you an extra little application, so we're giving you a double-handed technique. So, as I said, that rollback movement, he's cutting down the neg 1 point and striking in to the crease of the elbow with that strike there. But see, it's just the body movement. If you turn your body to the left, one hand will go out, one hand will naturally go back. I have to use a lot of control to make this hand go back. This hand doesn't want to come back. This hand wants to come back. The other hand wants to go out. Same as if I were doing a direct attack. I would directly attack straight to the center with that hand. Okay, the final one that we're working with is the upward elbow. This is a lovely technique. Okay, so you're coming, if I throw this strike, okay. So what we're doing with this one is, you can do this in one of two different ways. You can either come straight into the arm, coming straight in for the elbow, you see? Like that. So that would be used more like, let's say, for example, let's say we were here, and so he'd come straight in with the attack. If it were more a bit of distance, Same technique, but he's going to turn slightly to his left and poke me in the eyes. You see? So as in the same technique, in there, you see? Bang, and then this is going to come through. So that which was just a block before is now, see? Stick me in the eyes first, now I'm back, and then the elbow comes through. So you can do it two different ways. As I say, if you're close, you're already close enough to hit him straight with the elbow. So you just use that as a cover, as a block, and boom, comes straight through with that elbow. When you practice the elbow, don't do this with your arm. See, so many people lifting the arm up. That's not going to hit the point now. Even if I was in range, that's now going to skim past. When you hit CV14 with that elbow, your wrist should be almost like on his chin kind of thing. Don't pull it back like this. So that's your strike, not like this. It's straight in like that. So yeah, two different ways of doing it. We're just going to practice with this one for today. But keep in mind, for your own training at home, you could, see, just open your waist a little bit. As you come in there, rather than coming straight through, open your waist a little, and that block becomes the fingers into the eyes. So if you just throw a strike there, see, rather than just doing that, and coming straight in here, that strike, you see, I've still covered it, but my fingers straight into his eyes there. If he were much taller, I could bring that into the neck as well, but preferably the eyes. With a slip block, it's better to go in the eyes because you don't need as much power. As soon as that's happened, his head's gone back, boom! And then he comes straight into that CV14 strike, right in there with the tip of the elbow, like that. So that's what we're looking at with that one. So yeah, either cover and strike or eyes and strike. But either way, you're in close. You're very, very close. So when you practice that with a partner, with a bag rather, again, don't load your elbow back. Just, you've got to bring it from a close range. Sideline, that's also a lovely elbow against a tackle. If he's any kind of a low tackle, and just crack him straight on the head, which is actually, funnily enough, that elbow is, you're allowed to elbow in your UFC, MMA, arena stuff, but you're not allowed to do upward elbows. You're also not allowed to do downward elbows, I believe. But yeah, an elbow like that is actually not allowed. You can only do this kind of elbow, which is of course much more difficult because he can get under that and then take me to the floor. But if I have this tucked in, now, as soon as he comes in for anything, he's going to get that crack straight on the top of his head. It's a really, really nice weapon. Even if you don't have that much force going through, if he runs onto that, it's going to right across his temple or top of the head. Lovely weapon there for that sort of situation. So let's look at having a learn of practicing these particular methods now. Okay, so actually, I might get you to do them because even holding the bag, it's still too low. So we'll get Leigh to demonstrate these ones, so you can have a look at Leigh's amazing punching power. Not just me all the time. Okay, so let's start off with the normal snap punch. Snap punch. That's it. Yeah. That's it. See, close range. That's that shock. You see? That's nice. Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. Okay, so that's that. Boom! You see it's coming from a very close range. Body mechanics are the same as all the strikes we've already been doing. So again, I'm not going to go into detail of what the waist is doing, what the waist is doing. It's the same movement of the waist, of the body, the grounding, the connectivity to the hand. It's just you're driving it in a slightly different direction. You're just going straight for mid-height. I might just do the opposite one of that. So if you hold that on a slight upward angle for me. No, it's in the other way. So I can punch down onto it, that kind of thing. So from my point of view, as I said, from a downward point of view, you'd be punching in like that. So Leigh's punch, as I said, is slightly up. My punch naturally would be slightly down. So same thing, like that. Drive it in and down, like that, you see? That's what we're looking at from that downward punch. Point of view with that one. Okay, chi strike. So that's coming in and slightly up. Same thing as before, yeah. That's it, yeah. Straight up. That's it. Okay. Okay. Now, from a downward point of view. So again, if you just tilt it a little bit up for me. That's it. So, from my point of view, I'd be hitting slightly on a downward angle from a taller point of view. So, same thing as before, try not to, with a double-handed shot like this, like we were saying before, we don't want to push our partners back. I'm going to put out a video soon on the 1-inch punch, so you can see all the principles of how to strike really from close range and the tricks used to make it look powerful, which aren't actually powerful, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so the downward shear strike, same principle, same body mechanics, squeezing of the body, all of that, only we're aiming it straight down. So we're getting from that close range, we're not swinging into the strike, because if you swing into the strike, you should have used a longer weapon. Chi is a mid-range weapon. So from there, see, dropping your weight onto it, like that, see? Like that. That's what we're looking at with that strike. Okay, the elbow to finish, the upward elbow coming in there like that. That's it. Yeah. See how that's slightly lifting me just a little bit? It's not like it's throwing me up because it's only just an upward angle. But you can see from the impact there that it's slightly uprooting me just a little bit. It's not just pushing me straight back, indicating that's it. That it's got a slight upward angle. You can see that going straight up through my neck. That's it. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Okay, so that's what we want with that one. You can practice that both ways. Leigh was doing that with the same leg forward, so of course you practice it that way. Practice it the other side as well. Depending on the application, obviously you want to practice with both legs forward. From a grappling point of view, like I said before, if someone's tackling, you're probably better off in the reverse stance with that one. So you can evade to the side with that first, and then come up with that one there. So that's the same thing, coming straight in, like that with that elbow. And you ground yourself as you do it. From the point of view of just normal combat, like if Leigh's just hitting me, you're still grounded, but you're just in a neutral zone. What we're doing from my point of view, from a tackling point of view, is as I hit it, I'm grounding myself to make sure that I don't get taken off by his body weight coming forward. So I'm coming through with that, and see, I'm dropping my body weight down like that, see? Like that. Okay, so that is CV14. Xipher process. Is that what it's called?
Xipher process.
Xipher process?
Yeah.
Oh, we're both talking like this, yeah?
I know,
Alright, so that's the end of lesson 5, I think. Yeah, so we'll carry on next week with liver points. Liver 13, the floating rib. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.